Directly below me is the center of all things Delmarva, the newsroom of WRDE Coast TV Studios located in Milton, Delaware. I am communication student Nathan Carney, and we are here at WRDE to give you an inside peek and look at WRDE and interviews from Madeline Overture, Charlie Sakaitis, and Jeanette Gallardo. This program is for anyone interested in breaking into the field of television, broadcasting, and journalism. We hope to provide you with the information about the skills needed to be successful in broadcasting with advice from communication graduates who now work in the broadcasting industry.
Hello, my name is Amina Hunter. I'm a communication student at Del Tech. Before we get started, where are you watching from today? Let us know down below in the comments. Now, let's travel inside the studio and speak directly with those who provide us with the news every day on Delmarva.
First thing I do is I grab forecasting sheets. So we have our own forecasting sheets for WRDE. And I started going and looking at different sets of data just to figure out what is happening now with the weather, which is going to impact what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen next week. So it's just basically sorting through a lot of data to create a forecast. And depending on the day, that can take anywhere from sometimes 20 minutes to up to an hour. If it's going to be a very interesting weather day, like say we're going to have a huge winter storm or a tornado event, then that's when I would spend a lot more time on that forecast and sorting through that data just to get to the most accurate thing possible. And then what I do is I go in and I build my graphics to tell whatever the story is going to be. So for example, this morning the story was we have a lot of fog. So I made sure that my graphics were centered around what's the visibility like. Once I build my graphics, I build them again, but in Spanish. I'm also the bilingual meteorologist for our Telemundo station. And so that's something that I really enjoy, is being able to do that in both languages, as Spanish is my first language. I would say that's the most important. It's just being able to really communicate what matters, not just, listing numbers saying the temperature is 78. Anybody can see that through a weather app or just going on the internet. I have always had a passion for the weather since I was a little kid. That's just always what I've wanted to do. And so I just kind of stuck with it. Went through elementary, middle school, and high school, and decided I really wanted to pursue weather as a career. So I went to Texas A&M, got my meteorology degree there, and I went ahead and did a Spanish minor. Since around junior year, I figured out, I think I want to do bilingual weather, because that's when I realized it's kind of important that our Spanish-speaking communities also have good and accurate forecasts. And so it's really just been a passion that I've had throughout my entire life. Go ahead and get that meteorology degree. That's really going to build a foundation to what you need, because you can build on the communication skills, you can learn how to present the weather, but you have to actually know how to forecast the weather in order to do all of that. So my advice would just be to go ahead and stick with it. It's a lot of difficult math and science, and that does draw a lot of people away. But if you simply stick with it, get help from your peers, from professors, then it's 100% doable if it's your passion.
A typical day for me is I get up at about 2:15 in the morning, get ready, get to work by about 3. And the first thing we do is our producer's already kind of stacked most of the show. I'll then go through, I'm reading literally everything that we're going to have to read that day. I'm rewriting everything kind of in my own parlance so that it sounds like something I might say instead of something that's too technical, or maybe something that makes sense for our audience to be able to digest. We go through all of that until about 4:10. Then we got to cut a couple of radio hits real quick before we get out here by about 4:45. and then you're getting ready to go on air. Show gets over, and then I start getting ready to do the midday show, and that one I actually produce myself. So then I have to go take some of the stories we had in the morning, check to see if anything new happened, go do one more show, and then that's pretty much the day. It goes quick, but it is a lot of work, and it is very early in the morning. So I used to do sports. I used to be on the sports side instead of the news side. I got to go to Russia for about 28 days for the Sochi Olympics. And that was really cool. That was one of the most interesting things I ever got to. Either that or being out on the Iditarod sled dog race at 58 below zero, covering sports, doing that. That would be the other one. Well, I am going to betray how old I am, but we used to shoot on tape, so that's not a thing anymore. The push to digital is much bigger now. At one of my recent stations that I was at, they were developing this small little minute to 2 minute newscast that was just digital, real quick, almost TikTok style in the speed of which it goes through things. So there's just more. You can do things quicker, but that means you're expected to do things quicker, and I would say that's at least part of it. But certain things haven't changed. Being a good writer is always going to matter. Getting the right story, getting correct information is always going to matter. Making sure that you portray accurately what you've seen and what's going on without any bias, making sure you have both sides. Those things are all the same in journalism. It's just the delivery methods that sometimes change. One of the biggest benefits to my career was I started in the tiniest market you could possibly start in, Fairbanks, Alaska, market 215. But the great part about that is I was on air every day, 6 days a week, 2 times a day, and you just got the reps. You just got to keep doing it. So I was not good at the beginning. But you keep doing it, and you keep doing it, and you just hone your craft. You watch people that are better than you. You talk to people who maybe you've made a connection with to get some advice. But really, it's just over and over and over again, sanding down those edges, getting a little bit better every day, and eventually, you become pretty good. I think that journalism is really important. I mean, you can see it with what's going on in the world right now, whether it's everything that's happened with the pandemic, everything that's going on in Russia. Having quality journalists out there that are able to accurately cover what's going on really matters, and we just can't let that die. So if it's something people are interested in, I think they should do it. I think they should know it is a tough business. You will have to work your butt off to be good at it, but it's worth it.
When it comes to building Delaware, I set my sights high.
When duty calls, I answer. No reservations.
And no compromises. Creating the perfect dish takes expert precision.
I help solve the most complex problems.
And while it may seem like our jobs are all over the map,
they all started at Deltec.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with news anchor Madeline Overturf. Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Nathan?
I'm doing good.
Great.
Before WRDE News, Madeline was WBSC's Sussex County Bureau Chief, and before that, she was a reporter for the station.
That's right, yeah.
In addition to her local broadcasting experience, Madeline was the weekend assignment editor and production assistant on NBC Washington for 2 years. What motivated you to move to Delmarva and work for WBOC and WRDE?
It's a great question. So I'm a military kid. I moved all over the world, and I had kind of lived, never really had a sense of home or community, and I wanted to get into the field out of my job in DC, and I wanted to be close to home because my parents are still living in Arlington, Virginia. So I said, okay, where are some markets that are nearby? One of them is Delmarva, and I'm so sorry, I didn't even know that Delaware had a beach until I got here. I always thought Delaware was, farmland. I didn't even know Rehoboth existed. And I got here, I was like, this place is great. And so I loved the beach. It was a great starter market, for me to get my feet wet, literally and figuratively. And then I really fell in love with the area, and I'm still here almost 6 years later. So every shift is different as an anchor. Charlie Sakaitis, our morning anchor, has a totally different workflow than me. So if I'm coming in, let's say a day shift, let's give that as an example. We have our morning pitch meeting at 9 a.m., which is where we all get on Zoom with our reporters, our photographers, our managers to say, hey, what's going on in the world? Let's find some stories to cover. And some days there's a lot going on. Like, okay, today we have the Delaware State Fair. It's also the day that there's this big vote in Rehoboth. Like, we kind of pre-plan. And then some days you're like, I got nothing. And we got to sort of figure out what's going on, what matters to people. Then after we have the meeting, everyone has their assignments. Sort of my job then is I'm helping the reporters make phone calls. Who do we need to set things up with? If we have a logistics change, let's say like we need some equipment to get down to our Salisbury location, we'll coordinate that. And then it's starting to put the shows together. The newscasts, you see a 30-minute or 1 hour on television, but there's hours to make sure the script's in, the coding is right, so the right video plays. So I help our producers with that, and then I read the scripts later. As they come in, obviously, I'm fact-checking them. That's sort of the anchor's job, is not just reading a teleprompter, but making sure what goes on is accurate and concise and things like that. And then we do the broadcast, and then we go home. Number one is having a good attitude. I think that's with anything in life. You have to have a good attitude and be willing to be a team player, because even though a lot of people in journalism are working on their own, as in filming their own things or editing their own things or writing their own things, you have to work with your team. So what's really important for our team is teamwork, good attitude, being up for creative challenges. So hey, you come into work at 9 a.m. and then you're got to do a whole story on chicken farms, and you might have never been to a chicken farm, but it's your job to sort of convey that information in a concise way. So quick learning, good attitude, teamwork, and I think that's all I can think of. One of the things that I'll never forget was covering the prison riots up in Smyrna, if you remember that, a couple of years ago. That, to my knowledge, nothing like that had ever happened on Delmarva, so it was very interesting and it felt like nothing had happened like that before. So it was very challenging, but also important to get that information out there. So that was something that really stands out to me. Also, total opposite, one of my favorite stories I ever did was with the Mayor Institute, actually, with Phil the seal. There was the seal that lived in Corsi Pond, and he was up there for months, and eventually he was taken into the aquarium, released up in New Jersey, and I got to drive all the way up to New Jersey to see it. So I followed that story from the very beginning, and it was really fun to go from Felton up to New Jersey all for this little seal. And everybody on Delmarva loves their animals, so. Every day is different. Even though there's a normal schedule, you really never know what's going to happen, what the stories are, and new challenges will come up. So I think if I did the same thing every single day, I would get bored. And the biggest reward of me working in journalism is I wouldn't do this job if I didn't feel like it made a difference to people. And that's not to toot my own horn or our team's own horn, but our longtime owner, Mr. Thomas Draper, believed that we had a moral obligation to serve all of Delmarva. That's a quote you saw when you walked in our building, and we fully believe that. So whether that's a road closure that impacts someone's drive to work, whether that is a piece of legislation that could change how many taxes you pay, we really feel like what we do is to serve people and to give them the information. And that is what, when somebody says, thank you for doing that story, or thank you for letting me know about that, that makes me feel like we did our job right, A lot of equipment changes. So this microphone, probably 5 years ago, would have been quadruple the size. And the fact that we can do entire stories on our iPhones now, which never happened before. So the equipment has changed a lot, and the fact that a lot is being done virtually now, just as with you guys with your Livestream team, and how that wasn't even a thing, I would say even 2 years ago. There was barely that. So it's been really neat to see the technology change, and hopefully we change along with it. I tell everyone, be your own advocate. The world is so busy, and everybody is so busy that no one is going to go out of their way to really give you something, and I mean that with everything, where it's you have to be the one to pursue what you want. If you want to have an internship, reach out to that news director. If you want to have a job, reach out to the people to say, hey, what is this situation like? Like, be your own advocate and ask for what you want. So even when you get a job, hey, what can I do to make this better? How am I being the best member of this team? What do I need? Like, the more we can advocate for what the job needs and more we can work with people, the better it will be. You know, I think a lot of people think like, oh, I just apply, check, done, but it's, you got to always be driving yourself forward, asking for feedback, asking for improvement. Like, that will make it all better the more we try to improve. If you follow your dreams and you work really hard and you're kind to people, I think that will always bring you success. Great time if you want to get in the industry. We're always looking for more interns, for more people who want to get involved and work with us. We're family owned and it's really important to us. So if you know anyone or yourself wants to come and hang out with me all summer, we're looking for it. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Madeline, for this interview.
Thank you.
I'm Nathan Carney. I'm your host.
There's a moment before every game, before every play, before every pitch, where you ask yourself, are you ready? dtcc.edu/athletics.
Welcome back. My name is Breanna Nelson. I'm also studying communications at Delaware Tech. So how does one break into broadcast journalism? For many, their first experience comes from being an intern, and very often those internships may turn into job offers. The communication department currently has about a dozen graduates working from Draper Media and its broadcast stations. Here are two graduates who interned at WBOC and were hired full-time. And if you're interested in a fast-paced career in the world of broadcast journalism, here are a few pointers to consider prior to entering the field. Sharpen your writing skills. Writing is a foundation for telling an effective story, and the more you practice you have with honing those skills, the stronger storyteller you can become. Gain experience. Find out where the local platforms that deliver the news to you are located. Many provide internships or offer volunteer opportunities. By reaching out to them, you can gain valuable connections that can help you when you are ready to make that leap into the industry. Keep up to date. Start following the news locally and globally. Research and understand how the decisions made could impact you and the lives of those around you. This helps you gain perspective and can help you finding current and factual information to support your stories. Get out and do it. In the age of digital, anyone with a phone and a voice can report. Go out and explore the world around you and gather details on a story that is of interest to you.
Hi there, my name is Taylor Rogers. I went to Delaware Technical Community College in 2011 through 2012. I then transferred to Salisbury University and graduated there in 2015. Find somewhere that you think you could ultimately end up at after graduation, or maybe somewhere that you've always wanted to work at. And that's why I chose the television station WBOC TV, because that was the sort of stuff that I wanted to do post-graduation. And I was very fortunate enough where I only interned there for 2 months and they had already offered me a job as a photographer in their helicopter. That's ideally where I wanted to work. In fact, that's something that I would recommend to any person that's looking for an internship, is to go for something that you would want to inevitably do. The second advice that I would give people is try to learn as much as you can at your internship. Talk to as many different people with different job opportunities, because one of those job opportunities might be something that you're interested post-graduation. You're in this learning phase right now where you don't really know exactly what you want to get into or what you really want to do with the rest of your life. And hearing those opportunities from other different people who have been doing it for years will really put in perspective what you want to do and how you want to take your career and your life after graduation.
My name is Jeff Melvin. I graduated with the class of 2020, and I interned in the Creative Services Department for WBOC, where we were responsible for the writing and the editing for various promotional materials that was used by the station. I really began to learn how to take the skills and the practices that we had learned in classes and how to transition them into a workplace and use them in a way that would consistently get our projects done by our deadlines. My internship went extremely well. I was hired at the station a few months later, working in the Delaware Life offices. Now I'm responsible for editing blocks for the show and running cameras in the studio. I would highly suggest that you take this opportunity to network. Aside from the possibility at getting hired, you can turn around and use those relationships that you've built and the impressions that you've made and use them as references. I would also suggest that, especially for students that are a little bit harder on themselves, like I tended to be, try to really start taking yourself a little bit more seriously. Try to think of yourself as not just a student anymore, but as a professional. For some of you, this is going to be the last step. This is the transition from being a student to being a professional. And I would just really take the time in your internship to really start recognizing yourself for the talents that you have and how far you've come.
You applied to Delaware Tech. What's next? First, congratulations on your first step. We look forward to working together in order to kickstart your Delaware Tech journey. Next, you will need to plan how you will pay for college. This can be daunting, but we are here to help. Visit studentaid.gov to complete the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. This is how you will find out if you are eligible for the Seed Scholarship, Pell Grants, and student loans. To support your enrollment, we may need you to submit your high school transcript, SAT scores, or you may need to take our placement test. Next, you want to confirm your residency status. And lastly, but certainly not least, we want to meet you. Visit us on the Virtual Support Center to meet with an academic counselor to discuss your placement and schedule classes.
We hope you enjoyed our program. Let us know down below in the comments. While you have seen us in front of the cameras, there have been several people working behind the scenes, and we would like to introduce them today.
John Schrock and Candace Ramsey.
And our advisors, Mr. Norwood and Miss Tanafas.
Miss Director and Miss Dolnack. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed our show.
And we hope you have learned more about the broadcast industry.
See you next time.